Hello, I'm Julie Sawyer and I'm the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent here in Haywood County. And today I'd like to demonstrate how to make kimchi. Kimchi has become very popular. It is a flavorful, salty mix of fermented vegetables and seasoning. It plays an important role in Korean culture. There are more than 200 variations of kimchi, and the type really depends on the type of ingredients and the preparation method. Generally, it includes Napa cabbage, radishes, green onions, garlic, ginger, along with some specific red pepper that's used in classical kimchi, the bucho style, which is specific to a region. The nutritional value of kimchi varies with the ingredients, but it's generally low in calories. It contains vitamins A and C and B complex vitamins, as well as phytochemicals and live cultures and microorganisms which confer a health benefit to those who eat it. So eating kimchi can be a healthy way to include vegetables and probiotic microorganisms to your diet. So let's talk about how kimchi is made. Now, I will tell you that this is a process where things need to sit for up to 3 to 6 hours. So I have already done some of these steps so that it can go ahead and sit that long, but I'm going to just do some short demonstrations to show you what that would be like if you were actually doing that step at this time. Most importantly, it is critical that you start with a very clean and sanitized kitchen. All of your equipment should be clean and sanitized, and your hands should be washed. So we want to foster the growth of healthy bacteria, which are going to get the fermentation process going, the growth of the Bacillus species and Lactobacillus species and other bacteria that contribute to this fermentation process. So the first thing that we're going to do is brine and salt our vegetables, and this is going to draw out the water, which helps the preservation process and allows the seasonings to penetrate the food. And then there will be a final salt rub, which is going to end up being about 2 to 5%. Kimchi is typically fermented by wild cultures that are naturally present on the food. The formation of these organic acids are going to result in an optimum kimchi pH of 4.2. The kimchi fermentation process is short in comparison to, say, for example, sauerkraut. Kimchi is going to ferment in 1 to 2 days, whereas sauerkraut takes 4 to 6 weeks and sometimes even more. For safety, you do want to store your kimchi in the refrigerator, and for the best possible product, you want to eat that within about 1 week. Let's get started. The main ingredient of our kimchi is going to be Napa cabbage. And for this recipe, we want 2 medium Napa cabbage, about 6 to 8 pounds total. We're going to wash these and then quarter them into quarters. So this is 1/4 that I have left from what I worked on earlier today. So the first thing you're going to do is take this quarter and remove the core. And we'll discard that. And then I just want to chop this into about 2-inch pieces. So I'm going to cut through here a couple of times. And then just cut this Napa cabbage into 2-inch pieces. Now, depending on the time of year, the cabbage might have a little different texture. In the wintertime, it's a little firmer. In the summer, it's just a little softer. So once I get my pieces into 2-inch pieces, I'm going to put it back in a bowl. Now the recipe says to dip this into a mixture of salt water, and normally it would be a 1/2 cup of coarse salt. The recipe I'm using actually recommends sea salt, but you could Any type of coarse salt is fine, you just do not want iodized salt. So just check that label and make sure that there's no iodine or caking agents in the ingredients. So this is just pure sea salt with nothing added. And I've mixed that with this water. And so now we're going to dip our cabbage into the water. We're going to get it under there, and it just says briefly, so I'm just going to go for about a minute, letting that get a little saltiness on it. Now that our cabbage has been briefly dipped into the saltwater solution, I'm going to drain it out. So we'll just pour it into this colander and let that drain good. So this is the point where you will have some thyme. We're going to salt this back in this bowl. So again, the recipes, which we'll make available at the end, we'll give you the addresses for those, call for 2 heads of Napa cabbage, and then we would put 1 cup of salt on that and massage it in, but because this is just a quarter, we're going with less salt. So we're just going to do about 1/8 of a cup of salt. We're going to sprinkle that on our cabbage. And then massage it in. And again, we just want to get all of the cabbage covered in the salt. And we'll massage that in. And let that get good and covered. And then we're just going to let this sit. Now this needs to sit anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. So you definitely want to get that going ahead of time. So we're going to put this out of the way now. And we will fast forward. So here is our cabbage that's been sitting. Actually, before I start that, we're going to make a paste. And it also needs to sit and cool, so let's get that going first. So in our paste, we're going to have a 1/2 cup of water, and 1/2 cup of rice flour. And just, I picked all of these ingredients up at an Asian market in Asheville, so this is what the bag of rice flour looks like. So I'm going to just put this on the stove eye and bring it to a boil. As soon as it comes to a boil, we'll set it aside and let it cool down. I am going to give it a little stir before I put it on there. Now we have our rice flour on the stove coming to a boil, and while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and rinse this cabbage that has been sitting for 3 hours. I don't have a sink here, so we're just going to do it this way. Actually, let's do it this way. So what we want to do is rinse our cabbage, give it about 3 good rinses. So the first thing I'm going to do is drain it. So as you can see, there's a little bit of liquid coming off of that just from having it soaking in the salt. So we're going to rinse this 3 times. I've just got some clear water here. At home, you can do this at the sink. Stir it around a little. We'll rinse again. Switch containers. And now let's do our final rinse with just cold water. We'll move this around a little so I'm sure I've got everything. And so for our final rinse, we've rinsed twice. Now we're going to do our third and final rinsing of this cabbage. And after that final rinse, we want to just let it sit for about 30 minutes. So I wanted to get that going so we could just set it aside. So we'll just let this sit here while I finish the rest of the ingredients for our kimchi. So our white rice flour has come to a boil and started to form a paste. So I'm going to set this aside. We'll let this cool. Okay, next we are going to put our garlic and ginger combination together. So I have 10 cloves of garlic that I have already peeled and trimmed. And then I have some ginger that I have also already peeled. This is what the ginger looks like peeled. And I do have one piece of ginger here prior to me peeling it. So as you can see, it just has this skin, which you can remove with a paring knife. A lot of people like to take a spoon. You could also use a vegetable peeler like so to take that skin off, just whatever works for you really. So for the ginger, we only need about 3 slices, about a half an ounce. And I do have a scale here, but you don't have to have a scale to do this. You could just eyeball it. So we're going to do about 3 slices of ginger. Maybe just a little more to bring it up to half an ounce. This is where the scale comes in handy. Okay. So we have our ginger and our garlic, and I am going to just put these in the food processor. So my slices of ginger and my 10 cloves of trimmed peeled garlic. And we just want to finely mince this. I think we're there. We have a few pieces of the ginger down in the bottom. Get those up and do it one more time. Okay. So I'm going to mix this minced ginger and garlic. I'm going to put our white rice flour in here for the paste. And just mix those together. Okay, we'll let this sit aside here for just a moment. So next we're going to add our radish. So this is a Korean radish. I went ahead and peeled some of it. We need about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of this radish cut in little matchsticks. These are very easy to peel. So I just took a vegetable peeler after I scrubbed it, washed it, scrubbed it, and just take the vegetable peeler and take that outer skin off. Like so. And so I have some more here. Let's take that little bit off right there and take the end off. So we want to cut these in about 1-inch matchsticks. And so the first thing I want to do with my knife is make a flat edge. So I'll cut this way so that I have a flat edge, and then I'm just going to go across and then go across again. And so this is kind of what we're going for right here, are the matchstick size. So I'll just keep cutting these. Again, I want about 1.5 pounds. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so we will use all of this. And as you are slicing your vegetables, you want to always use the bear claw method, which, like so, this protects the tips of your fingers. Also, gripping your knife properly, keeping the tip on the cutting board as you go, that just gives you more control. And again, that bear claw method just protects your fingertips. So there we have all of our radish sliced. Next, we will slice also in a matchstick fashion, 10 green onions. So what I like to do with these is usually slice them in half and then come down and slice them in half again. I've already washed and trimmed these. And again, about 1 inch, using that bear claw method. There's a lot of slicing and dicing in this kimchi making. So it's a good opportunity to practice those knife skills. Of course, you always want to be sure that you're working with a good sharp knife. A dull knife is just going to increase the risk of cutting yourself. And so I am using the green and the white part of the green onion. there are our 10 green onions. Okay, now we're going to take our white rice flour ginger garlic paste and put that into a big mixing bowl. And then I'm going to add my red pepper powder. Now I will warn you that this is really potent, so it is recommended that first and foremost you wear some gloves to keep from burning your hands. So I am going to put on some gloves. These are just disposable food handler gloves. And so I've already measured out a cup of the red pepper powder. So I'm just going to stir that into this white rice flour garlic ginger paste. In just a minute, I want to get my hands in this, so that's where the gloves are going to come in. So just so you can see our paste coming together here. Now I'm going to dump in our radish and green onions. And at this point, just use my hands and start combining the paste with the now this is starting to have that kimchi look to it, as is my tablecloth. So we want to just massage this paste and pepper into these vegetables really well. Now you can store this in a glass jar with a removable lid. I mean, we're not canning this, so, but it should be with a plastic lid. We don't want any metal to come in contact with this. Now that I have this paste distributed through these onions and radish, I am going to go ahead and add the cabbage. And then also a couple teaspoons of salt. And this is, again, this is canning salt, so it does not have iodine in it. And then we'll add our last ingredient in just a moment, and that's going to be fish sauce. So again, we want to just mix this paste, get it really massaged into the veggies and the cabbage. We've added the salt. Now, this recipe that we'll share with you actually calls for an Asian pear, also cut into matchsticks. But the folks at the Asian market who were helping me get my ingredients said, do not put that in there. So I decided to leave it out. But if you want to try the Asian pear, by all means. But it was not recommended by the manager of the market. So here's what we're looking like right now. And I still see a little bit of the the paste kind of in little balls, so I really want to work that in. So we are actually going to put this kimchi in Ziploc bags, which is recommended. Again, you could do it in glass jars. And you could let this ferment for 1 to 2 days at room temperature, but you really need to keep an eye on it because, as I said, it does ferment a lot quicker than other vegetables. Or you could slow that down a little just by putting it directly into the refrigerator. And then just keeping an eye on it. And it's going to bubble and fizzle just a little bit, so when you do put it in the Ziploc bag, be sure and put that in some other container, just in case it needs to catch any juices that leak out of the bag. So our final ingredient is the fish sauce. I think I'll just do it. I'll clean this up later. So the recipe calls for about a teaspoon of fish sauce. I'm just going to eyeball that and mix that in. I can definitely smell the fish sauce. It certainly adds to this. It's really starting to smell good and look more like kimchi. And again, I just really want to make sure I have all of that paste kind of massaged into our vegetables. So one more look. Okay, now we're back. We're going to put the kimchi into some Ziploc bags. And again, you could ferment this at room temperature. Really, you want to keep it around 68 degrees. It is going to put off a pungent odor. And if you do that, you definitely want to eat that within 1 to 2 days. For a little bit slower fermentation and for your product to last a little longer, I recommend that you store it in the refrigerator. Again, I am using tongs. I would not recommend handling this with bare hands because of that hot pepper. So you want to fill your storage bag about 2/3 of the way full. Then you want to lay that down, kind of flatten it out. The good thing about storing it like this in the refrigerator is that you can flatten it. It does make for easier storage. And this is a gallon bag. You could certainly use a smaller quart size bag. But you do want to be sure that you press as much air as you can out of the bag. And then we'll zip it shut. And there you have it. So again, 1 to 2 days at room temperature. That's going to be around 68 degrees. You want to taste it daily until it gets to the flavor to that taste that you want. For safer storage, do put this in the refrigerator. And you can 3 to 4 days if it is refrigerated. You do want to eat this within the week. I would also recommend putting this in some other container, again, just in case it leaks. You'll have it in something that can catch the drip. You could put it in the pan or in a bowl or a plate, whatever works for you. And so again, this recipe will be available on the Haywood County Extension website, which you should be able to see at the bottom of the screen. It will also be available on the Haywood County Public Library site, and the videos will be available there as well. Thank you.